Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin, and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the ongoing Osha vaccine mandate litigation that's being heard in the Fifth Circuit. So what is the Osha vaccine mandate? I'm sure all of us are quite familiar with it, but in case you don't know, the Osha vaccine mandate requires employers with more than 100 employees to either one, force their employees to get vaccinated and require proof of vaccination, or two, force their employees to get tested for COVID weekly, and those unvaccinated employees that are getting tested, they have to wear a mask as well. It doesn't require, the employers do not have to pay for the testing for the unvaccinated employees, so that could be great expense if you're unvaccinated. The idea there is to try and push more people into getting vaccinated. Seems to be the idea with this emergency temporary standard in general. And so what is the emergency temporary standard? Well, so this is not quite yet an official rule that OSHA has passed. This is an emergency rule in a sense that they've passed. An emergency temporary standard, OSHA has the authority to issue one of these. Congress has given OSHA the authority to issue this. And what it is it's essentially a rule that goes into effect for 6 months, and it allows OSHA to skip the procedures associated with a normal agency regulation. So normally when OSHA would be creating a regulation, they would have to go through notice and comment procedures where people that are concerned about this could, write in, and the agency would say, well, hey, here's why this isn't a problem. But they didn't have to do any of that here. And that's because this is an emergency temporary standard. And so the statutory language that OSHA is given this authority by is really kind of important because it plays a key role in this case. So before we jump into the court's decision, it's also important to kind of note where we are at the procedural posture in this case. The plaintiffs here are seeking an injunction. They're seeking a permanent injunction, right? That's their overall goal, is to say, hey, you can't do any of this, OSHA. Scrap it, throw it in the garbage can. But right now what's happening is they're saying, hey, we're at the Fifth Circuit. It's going to take a while for all this briefing to get completed and the Fifth Circuit to come out with its complete decision. So while that is ongoing, we just want an injunction against OSHA where they cannot enforce that while this is ongoing. It's also important to note that if you're going to get this as a plaintiff, you have to show a strong showing of likelihood of success on the merits. So to get one of these injunctions is almost to say that you are going to win the case. That's why that's so important to note the procedural posture here. Okay, so what does the Fifth Circuit say? Does the Fifth Circuit say OSHA can do this? They say probably not, almost certainly not, that OSHA can do something like this. They say there's grave statutory and constitutional concerns associated with this vaccine mandate, and so we'll just jump into their reasoning. So first, they say the text of OSHA's ETS statute does not give them the authority to issue some type of regulation, some type of ETS like this. The specific language is it allows OSHA, when it detects a grave danger associated with substances, hazards, or agents, to enact one of these ETSs. And so there's kind of a bit of a textual argument at the get-go where the Fifth Circuit's saying, is COVID-19 really a substance, agent, or hazard? Normally what we would think of with this type of an OSHA regulation is something like benzene or some type of toxic chemical, maybe something associated with creating Teflon at DuPont or something like that. But we wouldn't think of a disease right off the bat when we see those three words, right? So that's their first kind of argument. The second is that, there's this grave danger associated with that, right? And they're saying, is COVID-19 really a grave danger for everyone in the workplace? This isn't like, some type of substance that OSHA has dealt with in the past where, it's benzene and it's toxic and it's going to kill anyone that comes into contact with it, or they're going to get cancer or something terrible like that. People have different responses to COVID. And so what might be a grave danger to one person is not a grave danger to another. That's kind of the bit that they're doing there. And then next they say that this mandate is overly broad. Why is it overly broad? Well, they say, you might have a trucking company where there's 101 employees, right? And all those people now either have to get vaccinated or tested. But truckers are in a cab by themselves all day. They don't really have any social exposure. So do they really have a large risk of COVID? And so they say, in that sense, this is overly broad, over-inclusive. But then how is it under-inclusive? Well, what if we had a place that was super dirty, maybe like a daycare or something like that, where this isn't mandated yet. And, there's 99 employees at that daycare. Well, that person is probably in much, more of a grave danger of a COVID risk at the daycare than the trucker is. So they're saying that this kind of 100 number is arbitrary. And it's over-inclusive and under-inclusive. And so they don't like that. They also look at President Biden's statements and shows that President Biden originally was opposed to vaccine mandates and then, later said he was in favor of them. And this just kind of shows that, the real purpose behind this vaccine mandate is not to ensure workplace safety. It's to promote vaccinations. And that's the way that, the Fifth Circuit believes it. I think that that's something that you could probably push back on. And then third, the Fifth Circuit says there are serious constitutional concerns with this mandate. The first being the Commerce Clause, right? Congress can only reach commerce. That's what we know. Commerce seems like it could be anything after we read some of the cases from the 30s and 40s. But they say here, after we've read NFIB versus Sebelius, the Obamacare case, where, Justice Roberts said, the Chief said, we cannot reach non-economic activity via the Commerce Clause. The Fifth Circuit saying this is non-economic activity. This is a personal health decision to get vaccinated. And so, we don't even really believe that Congress could give Osha the authority to do this via the Commerce Clause. I want to know, you probably could push back there. Sebelius is about health insurance. That is the purchase of health insurance. A vaccine like this, has been proven to help people with COVID. And, essentially, if we got everyone vaccinated, there's probably a chance that, our economy would be in a better place, right? Because we could all get back to business a little bit more quickly than usual. So that one, I don't know if it's as cut and dry, as clear as the Fifth Circuit says, but it's an interesting argument. Second, there's the major questions doctrine. And I think this one is actually fairly clear, and the Fifth Circuit is on point here, is saying, if Congress is going to give this type of vast, massive authority to agencies, it's got to speak clearly. It's not going to just do it through some type of backdoor, quiet statutory channel like this ETS, right? If Congress is going to give the agency the authority to mandate vaccines on essentially, 70% of the American people, it might even be higher, we would expect Congress to say that clearly in a statute. We wouldn't expect that to be through some type of vague interplay between, the verbiage in an ETS and what some type of, person at Osha is interpreting that, and how, President Biden is trying to see how he can roll forth his, policy initiatives. We would expect Congress to speak clearly about something like that. And so that's the major questions doctrine, where the Fifth Circuit's saying, we think that just as a matter of statutory interpretation, we don't like Osha doing something like that. But thanks so much for watching. It'll be interesting to see how this litigation plays out. This is in the Fifth Circuit. There will probably be cases in other circuits. The Fifth Circuit is notoriously conservative, so you might not see these same type of arguments accepted by other circuit courts of our nation. But the Fifth is the first one to take this up, so it's interesting to watch. If you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.